Hello, football fans, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour here on the Always Next Year podcast. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and joining me, as always, from his new home up in Canada, Connor Donald. Connor, how's it going, my man?
I am a million times better than I was like the last time we did a victory green hour. I am moved in, I am comfortable, and we are accustomed to our new life. So
That's
I'm
good.
feeling great.
Hey, that's good. It feels like we haven't talked in a while. Feels like the Eagles haven't played. I mean, they haven't played in over a week, but it feels a lot longer than that. At least it was a win, obviously, over the Green Bay Packers, because if they did not defeat the Green Bay Packers, this wouldn't be as calm of a week in Eagles land as it has been, because all the talk here in Philly has been about the incompetence of John Middleton right now, because he has yet to make any announcement of what he's doing with
Hmm.
the managers of the Philadelphia Phillies. Granted, there's talk that if he's coming back, which if that happens, I'm glad the Phillies decided to save me money, because I will not go to a game until Gabe Kapler is fired. But still, let's keep this positive and let's keep talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. This week, they face a team that might be as bad as the Miami Dolphins in the New York Jets. Can we convince people, or can we try to convince ourselves, that the Jets have a shot in this game?
Well, I will be honest. I will not sit here and spend any waking second trying to convince anybody that they're going to win. But I'm full on saying that I had a lot of hopes for this team. But you know what? They got completely destroyed by the injury bug, and they are struggling to meet expectations. Similar to the Eagles in the expectations and the injury bug, except our team is, in a better situation. We're
Because we
better.
have a better
We're,
head coach.
exactly. We have a better head coach. We have better players. We have a lot of better things going for us.
Well, Joe,
But
if sorry, go
you
ahead.
know what? I kind of had, I had the expectations that I think I had them pegged at 8-8. And you know what? There's no chance in hell they're going to be there. And they're probably down there, like you said, with the Miami Dolphins. They're arguably the second worst team when
And the
I thought we'd
Washington
be.
Redskins.
I still, oh man, I think the Jets are worse. I honestly think the Jets are like, I thought we'd be sitting here talking about the Giants being second worst. And Daniel Jones stepped in, and that team
And
looks
let's
so different.
let's they look
But
different. Like they look different, but they've beaten the Redskins and the Bucks. Now, yes,
hey,
the
hey,
Bucks put
hey,
up 55 on the Rams last week, but let's calm down. Let's see what they do against Minnesota this week. We'll see what the Giants really are, but I
hey,
don't
hey,
think the
but
Giants are there yet.
I had the Giants at 2 wins, 2-14, and that is definitely not going to happen. They're
Well, I mean,
definitely going to get.
they still have the Jets, they still have the Dolphins, they still have another game against the Redskins. So yeah, they're definitely not going to finish at just 2 wins. So you're right there.
They have but like the Jets have a lot of good players. Like you know what, I love C.J. Mosley. I did not want the Eagles to ever consider paying the price that he got, but I love C.J. Mosley. I
I
love
love Jamal
Jamal
Adams.
Adams.
Jamal Adams is great. I love him
Oh,
too.
I love Jamal Adams too. Those are two of the reasons I think Zach Ertz may struggle this week, but we'll get into that later. I like Tremaine Johnson if as a cheap alternative to buy on the cornerback side. I like Tremaine Johnson. There's a lot of players I like on the Jets, and there's a lot of potential there. I just think the injury bug bit hard this year, the struggle bug bit hard this year, and I just don't think that they're gonna have a lot of luck. I think that they'll be lucky to get 3 wins.
Yeah, I mean, again, looking at the teams they're playing, they still get the Redskins, they get the Giants, they get the Dolphins twice. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a struggle for them. We can start at the top. Their regime before Joe Douglas took over has screwed them over. They have about 7 years worth of draft picks. Take out the Jamal Adams and maybe Sam Darnold, but when they put the previous 7 years of them putting this roster together, they're just a terrible roster. Their offensive line is in shambles. They
Mm-hmm.
overpaid for C.J. Mosley. He's good, but they way overpaid for him. They probably
Mm-hmm.
overpaid for Le'Veon Bell. Um, you're not protecting your quarterback. You have decent weapons on the outside, Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder, but if you get no protection, your quarterback's not going to be able to get them the ball. Like a stat that I heard earlier, Le'Veon Bell has played all but 7 snaps this year. He's averaging like 2 yards a carry or 2 yards a touch. Something.
I think it's less than 2 yards a carry.
Yeah,
it's like 1.98.
It's ridiculous for somebody of his caliber. And it's funny. I just thought it was funny. Before he signed with the Jets, I don't remember if it was last year, or the year before. Like somebody asked him, would you sign with the New York Jets? And he's like, not for $100 million. They got him on the cheap. They got him for like what, 13, 14 million a year. So
it was a bargain, but I think it's in large part to the fact that he sat and people were willing to pay the price. But I mean, yeah, your point is there.
Yeah, he overestimated what he was going to get on the open market after he became a free agent. Not many teams are willing to spend on a running back that missed the entire year. Matt, who knows what type of shape he was going to be in. And running backs, yes, Zeke Elliott got that huge contract, but running backs aren't coveted nowadays in the NFL. It's
definitely not.
The quarterbacks, the top line quarterbacks get the big contracts. Defensive ends get big contracts, and left tackles get big contracts. Like
the people who essentially have a longer career span. Like when you look at it, you got your receivers. Receivers are more coveted now. You want that Keenan Allen. You want that DeAndre Hopkins. You want that Michael Thomas. You don't necessarily want that Le'Veon Bell as much as a team used to want and covet a running back.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's start with this Jets offense. Look, if there is a way for the Jets to stay in this game, it's creating turnovers, getting great field position, or having a couple big special teams plays and staying on the field, or we know how bad the Eagles cornerback situation is right now. They have 4 corners. They say that are healthy. Sidney Jones is expected to play, but we all know how fragile he's been. It's Rasul Douglas, Sidney Jones, Craig James, and they just called somebody up I can't remember. It's something Lewis, Ricky Lewis, something like that. I totally can't remember. I'm blanking on his name. They just called him up from the practice squad. They're your 4 guys in the secondary. If anything happens to Sidney Jones, Craig James is going to be out there. They don't have Jonathan Cyprien anymore. He got traded to the Falcons for Riley Duke. Riley Duke. I think. Yeah, I was about to say Dukes, but yes, Riley Duke. And so, if there's, I'm going to give you a reason that the Jets can possibly stay in the game. It's they burn the Eagles downfield. Robbie Anderson is a really good. Now, it also will help if Luke Falk can get him the football. I don't know if that's going to.
Yep.
I don't know if that's going to be able to happen behind that offensive line. Like, this is a get-right game for the Eagles front line. This is a get-right game for Fletcher Cox. He should abuse Ryan Khalil if Ryan Khalil is still starting. Kelechi Osemele if he's not hurt. Like, this is a get-right game for that Eagles front line. They should not have to bring pressure. The front 4 should be able to get after Luke Falk and contain Le'Veon Bell, forcing Falk to try to beat them downfield. And this could be a get-right game. If the front line is able to get to the quarterback, that secondary should be able to shine, not allow big plays. Now, I'm not going to get excited on Sunday at 4:30 after the Eagles beat the Jets 31-10 or something like that and say, oh, man, this defense is back, because they're going to get tested the next week against Minnesota, who has an actual receiving core with an actual semi-offensive line with a quarterback-ish. They have, with Dalvin Cook, like, they have a semblance of an NFL football team. But this is a time for this Eagles defense to kind of get some confidence. They need to build confidence going into this huge 3-game road trip that they're about to hit heading into the middle of the season.
Absolutely. Like, if we thought that Green Bay Packers game was important, now this Jets game, like, you got to win this game. I mean, we've lost some games that we should have won, and we didn't. We lost to the Lions. We lost to the Falcons. We should probably be a 3-1 team right now, but we're 2-2. So, I mean, I guess like you were saying. Sorry, go ahead. Like you were saying, what would be the hope for the Jets? The hope for the Jets was this afternoon, about 3 hours ago, when they announced that who their starting quarterback would be. Their prayer would have been Darnold playing. That would have been their prayer to beat us.
They were smart in not playing him, because he has actual fear. Like, if Fletcher, if he goes to throw and his entire midsection is left exposed and Fletcher Cox were to hit him in his spleen, like, he could literally die on the field. So, like,
absolutely.
I'm glad that they didn't rush him out there before he was 100% cleared to go.
Agreed, agreed. And I mean, I get that. I get that you're not risking your life for the game of football, even though so many players do night in and night out. But I mean, that was their prayer to beat us with Sam Darnold. Luke Falk, I mean, and this offensive line, I mean, I'll get into more later on with the key matchups, but this offensive line is bad. This offensive line is horrible.
So
I mean,
my
I
fear
would
with that.
like,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No,
No,
I was
I
gonna.
like I would like to sit there and say, like, I like to be able to talk about these teams and to be able to say some positive things, but there were so few positives beyond CJ Mosley, Jamal Adams, and Leonard Williams that this is tough to discuss.
So I, we say all. I feel like we've said all season that the opponent that the Eagles are facing, that their offensive line is bad. Yet the Eagles have 3 sacks on the entire season.
Hmm.
So I'm not taking it with like I by saying that now the Jets, as you mentioned, the Jets line is very bad. But like until we see the Eagles offense or the Eagles defensive line show up and dominate a game that the way we anticipated them coming into the season, I'm gonna sit there and wait. But we're talking about a Jets offense that ranks 32nd in the NFL in like 12 offensive categories. They have 1 offensive touchdown on the year.
Yep.
They've scored 11 points offensively on they are that bad. It's ridiculous how bad this team is. And again, we mentioned how can the Jets stay in the game? It's going to be that defense. CJ Mosley,
Hmm.
you mentioned, if he plays. Jamal Adams, granted, apparently he may have, I mean, there were talk that he got benched a couple weeks ago, which is insane because he's probably the best player on that defense. Leonard Williams, I like a lot. Quinnen Williams, who I don't know if he's healthy. I don't know if he's going to play. He's from Alabama. Like, he's a man child. Like, they have
Hmm.
really good pieces on that defense, which we'll get to in a little bit because I know we're talking about the offense, but that's the way that the Jets are able to stay in this game. And again, if you give a team that does not deserve to be in a game any type of confidence and they're in it in the fourth quarter, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about that offensive line. Like, I looked up some stats. They ranked 32nd in the run block. So you want to talk about the struggles that have been faced by Le'Veon Bell. They are stuffed 29% of the time. Like, that's unreal. So that is almost nearing a third of the time that they run the ball, they get stuffed. Like, that's crazy. And then they're 30th in pass protection. They've allowed 17 sacks this season, which is a 13% sack rate.
That's
Like
like 5 a game.
these numbers are unreal. They're unruly for this team. Like, I feel bad for, like, I don't blame Darnold for not playing. I would not play. If you know that like if I was Carson Wentz and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I trust my line. I'd go out there. Sam Darnold, I'd be like, oh no, my life ain't worth this. You guys won't protect me worth shit. And it shows.
One thing I meant to mention is how the heck does Adam Gase get another job? You know, we have to thank the Miami Dolphins for hiring him and appealing to him because you remember when we hired Doug Peterson, and we have to thank the New York Giants too because Adam Gase was high on the Eagles list, and the Giants' old coach, why the hell can I remember his name now? Who was their coach? Oh man,
Oh my God, I should know this.
I should know this too. It's so bad that I can't think of it. But like they were on the list ahead of Doug Peterson. And the Giants hired, damn, I can't remember his name. The Dolphins hired Gase, and then the
He
Eagles.
only he only lasted 1 year. How can we not remember that name?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look. Keep talking. I have to look it up.
You
No,
you go ahead and look it up. You go ahead and look it up. But I mean, you want to talk about, like, you look at those lines, like, you look at our rankings. Our run defense ranks first in the league. 33% stuff rate, averaging 2.85 yards per rush attempt. Like, I mean, I feel bad for Le'Veon Bell. If they're not passing it to Le'Veon Bell, they ain't moving that ball with Le'Veon Bell. And but let's flip the chart. 32nd in pass pressure. Like you had mentioned, 3 sacks. We have a 2.5% sack rate up against a team who is allowing a 13% sack rate. Like, the league average is 7%, and we have a 2.5 sack rate. That is, like, it is so vital that Barnett and Graham turn these pressures that we've praised into actual sacks and into actual QB hits.
So
This week, big time.
yeah, they should. Ben McAdoo, by the way, can't believe I couldn't remember that. I used to call him Ben McAdope.
Well, there you go. I held it. I held the show long enough that you could do that. So when
I
we
let you
go
talk.
into key matchups, those are the stats I was going to throw out. So there we go. We're there.
No, but yeah, so we have to thank the Giants and the Dolphins for hiring Ben McAdoo and Adam Gase and us. We probably do not have a Super Bowl right now, but then like the Jets, how did the Jets? Now this wasn't under Joe Douglas, so that they finally have the good leadership. But how did the Jets, who saw Adam Gase twice a year, go? I think they go from Todd Bowles was their coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go from Todd Bowles to going, Adam Gase. I think he's the right guy for it makes zero sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And something tells me now that Joe Douglas is running the show up there and he can finally start getting some good players in there, that Adam Gase ain't gonna last past next year. Like next year he could be 2 and done with the Jets, like he was with the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, first of all, if you sit there and you think of a guy who has the audacity to say, I would not have paid that much for Le'Veon Bell, for a running back of his caliber and his stature, you got to wonder about this coach. I would have paid for that type of running back ability. I like Le'Veon Bell. I think he would be 10 times the player he is if he were in about half of the rest of the league. He could be almost on 16 other teams and be putting up running back 1 numbers. But he's stuck behind Adam Gase and an offensive line who cannot pass protect and who cannot run block worth shit.
Which is going to be crazy because the Eagles have a top 5 run defense in the NFL. So you don't anticipate Le'Veon Bell being able to run as much, but he obviously can be an issue out of the backfield. And again, this is where the Jets can find a way to stay in the game. Our corners aren't that great, and our linebackers are sketchy.
They're not really. I don't find them great in pass coverage.
Exactly.
I would definitely throw to Le'Veon Bell up against any of our linebackers right now.
Yeah, so Le'Veon Bell and Ryan Griffin have a chance to have big days. You keep the Eagles, the high-powered offense, off of the field, and you matriculate the ball down the field, try to win the time of possession battle, create turnovers, and that's how you win. Now let's jump over to this Jets defense. We've already mentioned a couple names that we like a lot. Leonard Williams, C.J. Mosley, Jamal Adams, one player at each level of the defense, and their defense isn't bad. They're not, their secondary, their corners aren't great. They're almost as bad as ours. But, this is a team that could cause issues. If the Eagles offensive line plays the way they played last week, nobody's going to stop the Eagles because we mentioned before, the Eagles offensive line dominated last week. And Brandon Brooks has been graded out as the best guard in football. And this is coming off of a freaking Achilles injury in January in New Orleans in the playoffs. He is
unreal.
Isn't that unreal? And he is playing beyond his mind. Lane Johnson is getting back on track. Jason Peters looked really good last week. So it's going to be important for the Eagles offensive line to stop this front 3 because the Jets do play a 3-4 defense. It's going to be important for them to stop them because the Jets aren't going to allow the Eagles to just play big boy football and run it right down their throats. The Jets run defense is actually good. So it's going to be important for that offensive line to stop the pass rushers. And it's going to be there's no Deshaun Jackson this week. Somebody's going to have to step up. You mentioned how the Jamal Adams and C.J. Mosley can kind of negate Zach Ertz. So Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, they have to step up. Nelson Aguilar especially, there should be space for him. He needs to catch the football.
Oh, absolutely. Down in my matchups to watch, one of the matchups is Carson Wentz versus his receivers. The sad reality is our receivers have struggled. So it has nothing to do with the secondary. It has nothing to do with the corners of the Jets. It has everything to do with his skilled players making the plays happen. And that's to come later down the road. But just as a preview, Carson Wentz versus his receivers is something to watch because we know Deshaun Jackson is out this week. So it is vital that Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Matt Collins, J-Jaw, they all make the plays happen. They're there for a reason. They have to make those plays happen.
One thing that was interesting from last week is Nelson Aguilar was targeted once, and the Eagles were able to move the ball at will against Green Bay for the most part. That's telling me that I feel like they're going to start phasing Nelson Aguilar out of this offense. He's making $9 million this year. It's highly unlikely that he's going to be back next year. Somebody else is going to have to step up. Obviously, he's needed because no Deshaun Jackson, but Matt Collins, J-Jaw, they have to find ways to make plays. I don't know if that was Carson Wentz not having confidence in Nelson, or the game plan just didn't call for it, or he just couldn't get open. But whatever it was, Nelson Aguilar, when given the opportunities, is going to have to make plays. No more dropping the football, man. No more fumbling it when nobody touches you, because you will get out of the favor of your quarterback if you continue to do that mess.
Absolutely. I mean, like Alshon Jeffrey's going to be covered by Tremaine Johnson, who is not a great cornerback, but who is a cornerback that I think would fit with the Eagles well, who I think would fit in a lot of secondaries fairly well. But, I mean, that makes it even more important that Nelson Aguilar on the other side of the field is able to make plays happen. And, I mean, because you're going to be up against a guy who ranks brutally among cornerbacks in the NFL. So you have to be able to make those plays happen because you're going to be able to burn. It's weird to say, but Nelson Aguilar will be able to burn a cornerback, but he has to burn that cornerback and make something happen out of that, because Alshon Jeffrey definitely has the more difficult matchup out of any receiver playing on Sunday.
Yeah, and we're looking at a Jets team that we know that there's history between Howie and Joe, because Joe Douglas, the GM of the Jets, coming from the Eagles from the last couple of years, helping Howie build the roster into a Super Bowl caliber roster. But the Jets have players that you mentioned, Tremaine Johnson, have players that the Eagles could use. Let's be honest. Tremaine Johnson, even Leonard Williams. We need defensive line help. I know he's playing end in that 3-4, but he's at college, he kind of played in that D tackle role. Yes, Timmy Jernigan's coming back in hopefully 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Who knows? But this could be a chance for Howie Roseman to kind of scout to see what the Jets have. Now, they're not a great team, obviously, but this defense has players. And I don't know what they're going to be able to do on Sunday, but the Eagles have to come out and I don't want to say they have to have that same game plan that they had versus Green Bay, because Green Bay's run defense was Swiss cheese. Like, the Eagles ran right. They sliced them, diced them, tossed them around, and that was what the game plan called for.
Pretty sure that was like the 32nd ranked run defense in the league. And this week is the 8th ranked run defense in the league. So it definitely will not be as easy as that for Howard or for Sanders.
Exactly. And, so the game plan is going to be different. Carson Wentz isn't going to throw the ball just 27 times. I'm hoping that it gets so bad that in the fourth quarter, we're going to see Josh McCown. Like, that's what obviously Eagles fans are hoping for. That the Eagles have a Denver Bronco-like matchup from 2017, where they jump all over the opponent and they throw up 50 points, and you're seeing the backups in the game in the fourth quarter. That's what we want. Will it happen? We've talked about it before, that this Eagles team tends to play down to the level of competition. They're not good enough to do that. They have to come out, put the pedal to the metal, show no mercy. Because as I mentioned at the outset of the show, they have 3 really tough road games coming up. Thank you, Phillies, again. So they have to show that they are a legit team. Now, beating the Jets doesn't show that you're a legit team, but legit playoff contending, Super Bowl contending teams handle an opponent like this and don't let them have any sense of life.
Oh, absolutely. This game, there is no excuse. The Lions are looking better. They're better.
That
team.
Loss doesn't look as bad.
It doesn't look as bad, but they are definitely not a team who I see going to the playoffs, who I see as in wild card weekend. But you can't lose to the Jets. They're arguably the second worst team in the NFL, and they are the worst team in New York. There's Buffalo, there's the Giants, and there's
Well,
the Jets.
technically, there's only one team in New York, and that's Buffalo. The Jets and Giants play in Jersey. Just saying. Just
Whatever,
saying.
whatever. I'm from Canada, okay, whatever.
I
But
know.
the point is, I mean, you look at those three teams, they are arguably the worst team out of New York or with the name New York linked to them. And
I know
so,
what you mean. I know what you mean.
it's a big game. You can't lose. You can't let them be close. You can't let this game even this I had this in my notes. This is a Carson Wentz game. If Carson Wentz is who we think he is, this is his game to win and his game to lose.
I actually think it's a Doug Peterson game because he has to keep the team focused. It's so hard when you're going up against an opponent this bad to keep the team focused. And they've had 10 days, so they've been reading their press clippings after beating Green Bay. Everybody's saying they're back. And Dallas loses on Sunday, and everybody's like, hey, if you beat, if things go how we think, if you beat the Giants and the Green Bay Packers beat the Cowboys, and then the Cowboys beat the Jets, then you beat the Vikings going into that Sunday night matchup for first place in the NFC East on Sunday Night Football, you're 4-2. They're 4-2. Like, you cannot afford to look past the Jets. You can't afford to look past anybody because you're not playing good enough football. So they have to find a way to stay even keel, keep their mindset, and keep everything on one goal, and that's going 1-0 the upcoming week. They can't look past the Jets to Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota's a better opponent. You're going to be on the road. Like, you cannot do that. You have to focus on the Jets because, again, you let an inferior opponent stay in it and give them any type of confidence late in the game, they have a chance to shock you. Just ask the LA Rams what Tampa Bay did to them last week.
Oh, that game was oof.
It was insane.
Wow. Yeah, but it's kind of like the Steelers versus the Patriots. The Steelers were already looking ahead to the Patriots. I can't remember who the Steelers were playing, but they were looking ahead to the Patriots. It was 2 years ago, and they didn't make it to the Patriots. So, this is the same situation. You cannot look ahead to the Vikings. You cannot look ahead to any opponent down the road. We are against the Jets, whether they are the 32nd ranked team, the number 1 ranked team, or the number 16 ranked team. It is vital that your eyes are on the prize. 1-0 against the New York Jets.
Yes, sir. And then you can focus on the Minnesota Vikings. All right, let's jump to the keys to the game. I know you've kind of spouted off a couple of them, but
had to save you there.
I can't believe I couldn't remember Ben Mac. I guess I shouldn't be shocked. How many people do remember Ben McAdoo? But give me an offensive key to the game, either for the Jets or the Giants, or for the Jets or the Eagles, or a defensive key of the game, and a defensive key of the game, and maybe a player or two to watch from each team.
Okay, well, kind of like I alluded to earlier, the Jets' offensive line versus the Eagles' defensive line. The Eagles' defensive line seems to be the focus of every single week that we discuss. They need to start turning pressures into sacks and pressures into QB hits and pressures into turnovers ultimately. So I have Graham and Barnett versus Beachum and Shell, which is Graham and Barnett versus the left and the right tackle for the Jets. And then also, flip side, I have Leonard Williams versus Jason Peters. Jason Peters will be important for blocking the blind side. He's the bodyguard of Carson Wentz, and Leonard Williams will be attacking that side of Carson Wentz. So those are the flip side of the two there. Cox has been struggling because he lost his right-hand men in Jackson and Jernigan. So I think all attention inside is on him. So it is vital that Graham and Barnett need to create their own sacks, need to create their own opportunities, need to create their own pressure. And they have been creating their own pressure, but that pressure has to turn into actual stats for the Eagles. And Luke Falk cannot throw that ball. We have constantly let Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Case Keenum, for crying out loud, make plays. It is vital that those plays do not happen anymore, and it starts with Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham.
I agree with you. So I'm going to start for the Eagles defense. It's going to be the linebackers, and we mentioned it before, the linebackers against Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is the only person that can absolutely shred you and beat you for the Jets. Yes, Robbie Anderson has speed. He's a Temple product, so he's coming home. Like, he's played at the link with Temple before. Like, so this is a homecoming for him. And the Eagles actually tried to trade for him last year before they got Golden Tate. I actually would have rather that trade than getting Golden Tate. But yeah, it is what it is. But you cannot allow Le'Veon Bell to control this game, because if you allow Le'Veon Bell to start gashing you for 5-6 yards at a clip, that'll set up the play action game. And if you lose to a Luke Falk, you should just quit. Like, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. So you cannot allow Luke Falk to beat you. He shouldn't be throwing for 350 yards against you. Because our discussion next week is going to be totally different if he comes out and has a big game. Even if the Eagles win, but he's throwing for 400 yards, how he needs to do something with that. We already know how he needs to do something with that defensive backfield at the cornerback position. But it's going to be a different uproar come Monday or Tuesday, even if the Eagles win. But Luke Falk had a 350, 400 yard passing day. Excuse me.
We pray that does not happen. Because we will be the only team in the NFL to give that up.
Oh, to him? Oh, yeah. Then my the other key to the game for the Eagles offense, or a matchup to watch, we mentioned it also, Zach Ertz against Jamal Adams and or CJ Mosley. Like, we know that Zach Ertz is a key component to the Eagles offense. Even Dallas got, like, there was all this talk about would you trade Dallas Goedert or put Dallas Goedert in a package for Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, everybody knows how much I love Jalen Ramsey. I'm a huge Jalen Ramsey fan.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw when we watched the Falcons game, could the Eagles run the football? No. We saw the Detroit game, and Goddard only got 9 plays, but could they really run the football, with consistency? No. But we saw the Green Bay game. He made some hell of blocks. Wham blocks when he would come and just stone a defensive tackle and open up holes for Jordan Howard and Miles. He makes the world of difference. He's talked about, like, he wants to be a regular tight end. He wants to go out and running patterns and catching the ball, but he's doing what needs to be done to help this offense. And he is the best blocking tight end we have. And he needs to be healthy because the Eagles also released Alex Ellis. So they're only going to have 2 tight ends again this game. Nothing better happened to either Ertz or Goddard, because then we're going to be in week 2 situation against the Falcons all over again. Hopefully that Doug will be more prepared anyway. But, he is such an integral part to this offense, to this running game, that if Jamal Adams and CJ Mosley want to take Zach Ertz out of the game, and we go to the Tiger personnel, the 1 back 2 tight end sets, Dallas Goedert could have a big game. And you can only double cover so many people in our offense. We have a lot of explosive weapons, even without Deshaun. And if you're going to double Zach Ertz and then put a safety over top, Alshon Jeffrey, or kind of play a 2-man zone on him or whatever it is, somebody else is going to have to beat you, and that could be Dallas Goedert. So that's definitely my key for the Eagles offense, is if Ertz is taken out the game, which a lot of teams start double teaming him and then they stop double teaming him for some reason, and he ends up with 5, 6, 7 catches in a game. So I have zero understanding how defenses allow that to happen. I don't know if Greg Williams will, because Greg Williams has had 2 weeks to come up with an offense or defensive game plan to try to stop the Eagles. It's going to be interesting, but somebody else is going to have to step up, and I think Dallas Goedert has that ability, and it should be an easy game for the Eagles.
Yeah, and I kind of have on the flip side of the ball, I had Leonard Williams and Jason Pierce. I also have the Eagles receivers, Tremaine Johnson versus Alshon Jeffrey, and Carson Wentz versus his own receivers and his own skill players making something happen. We are facing the 32nd ranked passing defense in the league. So
wait, the Eagles don't have the 32nd ranked passing defense?
No, they do not.
How is that
possible? It is
possible?
the New York Jets. I'm pretty sure the Eagles.
The 31st then.
The Eagles are 30 or 31. The Dolphins are right there. So it's a fight for like 30, 31, and 32. But the Jets are 32 right now. So I bring it back to, this is going to be a Carson Wentz game, but it also comes down to, this is going to be a Carson Wentz versus his skill players game, and those skill players making plays happen, be it Alshon Jeffrey was a tougher matchup, be it Nelson Aguilar, who will not have the tougher matchup, Mac Hollins, J-Jaw, like you said, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. There's a lot of skill players that have to make the plays happen to make this a Carson Wentz game. And playing the 32nd ranked passing defense, it starts with the quarterback, and then it starts with the playmakers making the plays. So that is my thoughts on the offensive side of the ball. It's more of a Carson Wentz versus his skill players, and those skill players making something happen from there.
Yeah, I agree. And I still think it comes down to Doug Peterson, just not putting too much on the quarterback. If the running game is going to work, let it ride. Let it ride.
It's fair, yeah. Like Doug Peterson has to mix the plays up. He has to make it so Carson Wentz can succeed, and so the skill players can succeid.
Yeah, last week's game plan was perfect. Like they didn't force things force Carson Wentz to make plays. They allowed they took what the Green Bay defense was giving them, and and it worked to perfection. That's how they were able to come away with a win that nobody thought that they were going to be able to come away with.
But obviously this week will be tougher because you can't mix the run and the pass as well, because this run defense is a little bit stronger. So, I mean, you got to mix it, but mix it right and make sure the skill players are involved and the skill players are making those plays happen.
Yeah, we'll see. It should be should be a fun game for Eagles fans. All right, so before we get to the vaunted pick segment, we are going to get to our overreaction time. What is your biggest overreaction from week 4 in the National Football League?
So this is the one that rolls back into week 3, week 2, and week 1. This perception that Dak Prescott was going to be worth a record-breaking contract deal. I got to do it. At some point.
You want to talk for the next 2 hours about how bad Dallas and Dak Prescott is? Go for it. I'm sure our fans won't mind.
Absolutely. But I mean, look at it. He played the Giants. He played the Skins. He played the Dolphins. And let's get one sec. Giants with Eli Manning.
Yeah.
So he played the Giants, the Skins, and the Dolphins, 3 of the 5 worst teams in the NFL. He finally meets a real challenge, and the offensive flaws show. His flaws show, and suddenly the Dallas Cowboys are actually team, not this flawless team. This perfect 16-0 team. Suddenly there are flaws.
So I'm glad you brought this up. He's under 500 against teams that have a winning percentage over 500. He's like 11-12 or something like that. But the one thing I noticed watching that game is Marshawn Lattimore took Amari Cooper out the game.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have somebody that can do that right now. That's what makes it important to go out and get whether it's Jalen Ramsey or Chris Harris, or I don't know if Tremaine Johnson is of that caliber, but that's what it takes. He needs to go out and get somebody that you can say that Jim Schwartz can be like, hey, Jalen, you see Amari Cooper, you see Stephon Diggs, you see, whoever it is that we're going to be facing in these upcoming weeks, you go cover him. We'll figure it out elsewhere on defense. If you have that, you can do different things on defense. You might be able to blitz a little bit more. He'll take off the pressure. He'll take all the pressure off of the other corners that you have. Rasul Douglas isn't going to have to go out there trying to cover the number 1 receiver of the opposing team every week. He's our best corner, but that doesn't really say much when you look at the corners that we have. So that's the one thing I learned from that New Orleans Dallas game is how he needs to get somebody
importance of a true CB1.
lockdown. Yes. A true lockdown corner. You tell him to go take the number 1 receiver and lock him down. You have no worries about that side of the field or that player the entire game. That's what we need. And it would be great if that happens. Unfortunately, it's looking less and less likely like it's going to happen. But that's what I noticed out of that game.
Well, I mean,
you're right. Dak Prescott is so average. It's beyond ridiculous.
But to sit there and listen to like a Skip Bayless argue that this guy is better than people think, and then he comes out against real teams so this week they play Green Bay. If he puts up another dud like he did against New Orleans, how can you sit there and defend this guy? How can you sit there and say that this guy's above average? How can you sit there and say that this guy's worth anything? Like, you look at last night. Russell Wilson is
a baller. He's a
absolutely
gamer.
100% elite. He is worth 35 million. He was probably worth 40 million. Hell, throw 40 million to him. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, he
Dak
balled. He balled out.
Prescott,
He balled out.
absolutely. To think that you could even argue Dak Prescott is worth anything more or equal to Carson Wentz's contract would blow my mind. It would not make a
And
lick of sense.
and we see how average he is when Zeke gets shut down. If Dak Prescott is forced to beat you, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. Like
It's not happening.
at the end of the day, you know what? You talk about most valuable player. You talk about MVP in this league. You know what? The MVP to their team, and I'm a Eagles fan, diehard till the day I die. Russell Wilson. If that Seahawks team did not have Russell Wilson, they would be a 1-15, a 2-14, 3-13,
awful.
4-12 team year over year over year over year.
And they got him in the second round.
This man is MVP. This man is elite.
Yeah, he is. I agree with you. Now, my overreaction: the Detroit Lions are going to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They lost to the Chiefs, but they almost won that game. Like, they didn't get blown out by Patrick Mahomes. You know, like, there were a couple plays where the Lions fumbled here and there, and that's granted that's the way that the Lions beat the Eagles. But like, that Lions team, I think they're legit. I think they're going to finish second in the division. I think Green Bay is going to win it, which we both predicted at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. But I think the Lions have a chance to make the wild card.
Oh, man, that's tough. That's tough because, I mean, you think about the other teams who are going to be in the wild card: Cowboys, Eagles, Cowboys/Eagles, Falcons, Vikings.
I don't think the Falcons aren't going to be in the playoff mix.
Vikings, Bears.
Vikings are falling apart.
Seahawks. Like, you think about the 49ers at the rate that they're going. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but I mean,
Patricia has done wonders with that defense.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get that offense to be consistent, they can get a consistent running game because they have Kenny Galladay. Like, they have good weapons on the outside. Like,
let's get this right. You think the overreaction is that the Lions can make or can't make?
Can't. Well, my overreaction is that they're going to make the playoffs. But the reason why I'm overreacting to it is because of what you just said. All the teams that are in that mix. You have 3 NFC West teams. You have the 2 NFC East teams. You have the other 2 NFC. Actually, think about it.
NFC North. The NFC North is like 4 deep. Yeah.
All 4 NFC North teams. So that's why it's an overreaction, because the way that they're playing right now, they look like a playoff team. But then when you look at the landscape of the NFC, where do they fit in? We mentioned 3 NFC West teams, all teams in the NFC North, the 2 in the East. There's really I really think the NFC South is just New Orleans. I don't think Atlanta's anything. Carolina, yes, they're playing.
I would argue with that. I still think Atlanta's something, but that offense has got to get things rolling like this week.
I don't think so. I just don't think they can win any games on the road to warrant them making a playoff run. But we'll see. We'll definitely have we'll definitely have more overreactions throughout the year. But that's mine. Detroit, they have a shot though. All right, so let's move to the vaunted pick segment. Last week we both got the Eagles game wrong, which we'll both take that out because we both picked.
Hey, we said it. We sat there at the end of the show and we said, if we're gonna pick this team and they're gonna do the opposite week in and week out, I'm almost tempted to pick the fucking Jets.
I don't think you have the cojones to do that. So you took the lead because you got both of your picks correct, and they were both upset picks. You took the Jags +3 over the Broncos, and they got an outright win, 26-24. And you took the Browns +7 over the Ravens, and somehow, some way, the Browns showed up and showed out against that Ravens team. Which that Ravens defense has given up over 1,000 yards combined in back-to-back weeks, so they got some work to do. They won 40-25. My upset, I took the Saints to win outright over the Cowboys, and they did 12-10. And then I took the Ravens over the Browns in my lock. That didn't work out so well. So you are leading our pick segment 15-13 right now. So we'll do Eagles last. So you have to give at least one upset. You can do 2 upsets if you want, and a lock. What's your first pick, Connor?
Oh, I'm going upset, and I know you're going to love this. I got the Bills over the Titans. The Titans are 3-point favorites. I'm
Even
going with the
without
Bills. I
see
am going with.
Josh Allen out.
I think he may be, and that's what makes the difference. But man, that Titans team, man,
They're inconsistent, just like the rest of that division.
I can't pick Mariota. I'm sorry, I can't go picking Mariota.
That game's in Tennessee.
It is in Tennessee, yep. But I still can't go picking
If
Mariota.
Josh Allen was playing, I would agree with you that they would win. But I don't think Matt Barkley can beat anybody.
I'm still taking the Bills.
Matt Barkley's terrible.
Almost 95% based on the defense.
Okay. So I went with a lock. My first pick is a lock. I'm taking the Patriots minus 15.5 to win over the Redskins in Maryland, in Landover. Mm-hmm. Colt McCoy is the starting quarterback for the Redskins. I rest my case, Your Honor. And we know what Bill Belichick does to he's not a young quarterback, but he doesn't play that often. The Patriots have the best defense. They've given up, I think, 27 total points in 4 games. Their defense now
they've given up like one offensive touchdown.
They haven't really. They played the Bills. That was the best team that they played. Pittsburgh. They played Pittsburgh week 1. Pittsburgh is They played the Jets and they played the Dolphins, I think.
Yeah, they played like.
But they haven't played anybody.
Up until last week, they played 3 of the 5 worst offenses.
So they haven't played anybody. I get it, but the Redskins suck too. The Redskins are terrible.
So they're nobody either.
I'm taking this 15.5 points. It's a lot, I know, but the Patriots are going to win by like 3 touchdowns. Man, and there's no way the Redskins are scoring anything. The Redskins shouldn't score against the Patriots, especially with Colt McCoy at quarterback.
I can honestly say I don't think week in and week out I have seen so many double-digit
like the Eagles are 14 points favorites over the Jets. Like, it's crazy.
Last week there was like 3 or 4 double-digit ones. The week before that there was 3 or 4. This week there's 3 or 4. I'm like, holy Lord, man, this is crazy. This is a gambler's paradise.
Oh, it
is.
If
these teams could just cover.
I know, right? So what's your next pick?
All right, I'm going an underdog again. I am going to a winless game. The Arizona Cardinals versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I am going the Arizona Cardinals. The Cincinnati Bengals are favored by 3. I think Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray bring home win number 1 for the Arizona Cardinals this week.
So you took 2 road dogs, which technically it's a pick 'em because home teams get 3 points. So okay, I actually think the Cardinals can win that game. I mean, Andy Dalton's a terrible quarterback.
He's throwing up some monster numbers, but I mean, John Ross is out. AJ Green is out. You got like Auden Tate, Tyler Boyd, and
Joe Mixon healthy?
I can only name so far down the depth. Joe Mixon's in the lineup, but I can only name so far down the wide receiver depth.
Yeah, Zach Taylor, I don't think Zach Taylor's just because he met Sean McVay once, they want to be like, hey, we'll hire you. Yeah, I don't think he's that good of a quarterback.
They want to say he's off there.
I'm gonna mention this again.
The McVay
train. I'm gonna mention this again. People are talking about they want to get the next Sean McVay. What about the next Doug Peterson? Doug Peterson owns Sean McVay. Doug Peterson beat Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. Like, Doug Peterson is a hell of a coach, and I guess we can say Frank Wright is technically off of his coaching tree. So like that's a good start. But like more guys off of that have associated themselves with Doug Peterson, have been with the Eagles coaching staff, they deserve more shots at head coaching gigs. All right. My upset pick, I'm taking on Monday Night Football, the Cleveland Browns plus 3.5 over those San Francisco 49ers, who are 3-0, but I think they're frauds. I don't think they're as good as their record. And I think Cleveland, who I think this is the 3rd consecutive week that they've played a primetime game. 2 weeks ago, they played a Monday Nighter and lost. Then last week they played a Sunday Nighter, I think, and this week they get a Monday Nighter. Like how they are getting? Oh, wait, they didn't get Sunday night. I'm sorry, because the Dallas played on Sunday night. But I feel like they're getting a lot of these prime time games that, and because they have a lot of star power, Baker Mayfield, OBJ, they have a lot of star power. But I think they're gonna travel to San Fran and come away with a victory. And that's my upset pick. Now, on to the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Jets.
Do we really need to waste time?
I want to score. Man. I want to score.
You want to score. Okay, I can give you a score. So I'm going with the Eagles because we're realists. We live in a real world. So I'm going with the Eagles, and I'm going 38-13.
Wow, the Eagles are going to put up 38 points?
Oh, yeah. They are putting up some monster numbers.
I hope you're right. I have the Eagles winning 31-10. The Eagles need to, if they win the toss and they want to kick the ball to the Jets, fine. But they need to force a 3-and-out, get the ball, score. And the Jets are a type of team that once they get down early, they're going to quit. Obviously, with that weird head coach that they have in Adam Gase, I'd quit on him too. But still. So the Eagles have to get out to a quick lead, get the stadium rocking, and it'll be a party at the Link for the final 3 quarters of the game. But yes, I have the Eagles winning 31-10. If the Jets put up 10 points, I still don't know how the Jets are going to put up 10 points. I'm still trying to figure that part out. But yeah, I have the Eagles.
I think it's garbage time. That's why I give them the most points. Garbage time, where we're paying, instead of playing like 6 or 7 yards off, we're playing like 15 yards off. That's why I give the points.
Playing 15 yards off. So we're playing our regular defense. We're playing extended sticks coverage. We're playing
extended. Shut down that like home run drive. Who cares? But give them the first down.
Prevent defense. All right, yeah. The Eagles should win this game comfortably. If they don't win this game comfortably, Monday, when we are the next segment of the Kelly Green Hour, which better be a victory Green Hour, is going to be interesting.
Damn, if we lose, I don't think there's any point to putting up a Kelly Green Hour.
If we lose, we might have to call it a year for the Kelly Green Hour. That would be bad. Oh man. Oh my God. If they somehow
we got to stop thinking about this. You're ruining my Friday night.
That's true. We do have to stop. All right, man. So there are picks in the vaunted pick segment. So hopefully you'll lose one of your upsets and I win both mine and I take a lead somehow, some way. I'm gonna have to start picking all upsets now to try to stay with you. All right. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour. This episode was brought to you by Just Food Catering. It's located in Buckingham Green and inside the market at Del Val in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. If you want to give them a call and order a lunch or get a take-home dinner, you can give them a call at 215-794-3663, or you can visit them at 4920 York Road in Buckingham, PA, 18912. If I don't go to the Eagles game this week, I think me and Shane might be getting that for the game. There's a chance I could go to the Eagles game. We'll see. As always, follow us on Twitter. The Always Next Year Podcast Twitter handle is at ANY Podcast. Connor's Twitter handle is at Connor10. That's Connor TEN. And I'm at LJ Harrell 54. By the way, I put up a poll this morning of who's going to win the game. I think this might be the first time that we've ever gotten 100% on a poll.
No doubt.
Let me double check it before we go. Yes, 100% of people picked the Eagles to beat the Jets. I would have been very, 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 very concerned if anybody picked the Jets or if the Jets won that poll. The Jets are a terrible, terrible football team.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, they are probably the second worst team. They might even be worse than the Dolphins. Like, let's be honest, Dolphins might be better than them. I can't wait for that toilet bowl whenever that game is. But yes, please review. Give us any constructive criticism that you have. We're working on guests for the future, so we'll try to get somebody else on to give their perspective on what's going on in all things Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully, we are back Monday or Tuesday, whatever day next week, with a Victory Green Hour. For Connor, I'm LJ. We're going to send it out to the Jackdaws. Send us out of here. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour here on the Always Next Year podcast.
Fly, Eagles, fly.